We are now in bowl season for the 2024 college football season, and today I just wanted to quickly go through each and every bowl game, give you a preview, talk about the matchups, and just some of my initial thoughts on these games. It's pretty self-explanatory, but before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you can support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and preview all of these bowl games for 2024. Okay, so our first bowl game is actually to come up this weekend, as we will have South Alabama play against Western Michigan. Both South Alabama and Western Michigan both went 6-6, so this will be a battle for a winning record. In my opinion, I'm going to pick Western Michigan to win this one, and the Salute the Veterans Bowl should be a good time. After that, we have to talk about next Tuesday, which will be the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. This will be the number 25 Memphis Tigers taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. Memphis is currently ranked number 25 in the country and has a couple of big-time players, including quarterback Seth Hennigan and then star running back Mario Anderson Jr. I don't know if either of those two guys will be playing, and West Virginia had a disappointing season and is trying to find a new head coach. This game could be close, but I would say Memphis goes ahead and wins this one. Up next, we have to talk about Western Kentucky versus James Madison. Western Kentucky is 8-5 after losing in their conference championship game, and JMU is 8-4 in their first year without Cignetti. WKU is led by their star quarterback Caden Veltkamp, and JMU is led by their star running back George Pettaway. This game should be close, and I'm going to pick the Dukes to go ahead and win the Boca Raton Bowl. After that, we have an ACC versus Mountain West Conference battle, as the 6-6 Cal Bears will be taking on the number 24 UNLV Runnin' Rebels, who are currently 10-3. This is the Art of Sport LA Bowl, and Cal will be led by their star quarterback Fernando Mendoza, and this will be the last go-around for UNLV players such as Haj Malik Williams, Ricky White III, and head coach Barry Odom. After their loss to Boise State in the conference championship game, I see no reason why number 24 UNLV does not win this game pretty easily. On Thursday, December 19th, we'll head down to New Orleans for the R+L Carriers Bowl. This will be between Georgia Southern, who's 8-4, and then 9-3 Sam Houston State. Georgia Southern is led by their star quarterback J.C. French, and Sam Houston State is led by their star running back Jay Ducker. This game honestly should be decently close, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bearcats to win this one, in what could be a thriller. On Friday, December 20th, we have 3 games, including a college football playoff matchup, as the Ohio Bobcats, who went 10-3, will take on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Jacksonville State has had a really solid year, as they are currently 9-4, and Ohio ended up playing in the MAC championship game and are 10-3. Jacksonville State has a couple of stars in quarterback Tyler Huff and then running back Trey Stewart. Still though, I think Ohio is the better team, and I think the Bobcats are going to win the 2024 Cure Bowl. Up next, we have another interesting one, as in the Gasparilla Bowl, we'll have Tulane playing against Florida. At one point, Tulane was one of the hottest teams in the country, as they were fighting for a college football playoff spot, and Florida, on the other hand, was one of the worst teams. They started out terrible, but Billy Napier would save his coaching tenure, as he led the Gators to a 7-5 record, and the freshman battle of Darian Mensah versus DJ Lagway should be a lot of fun to watch, and I think this game will go back and forth and be super close, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Florida to win in the end. Obviously, we have the college football playoff that night as well, as number 10 Indiana will play number 7 Notre Dame, in what in my opinion is the most intriguing first-round playoff matchup. The two in-state rivals will play each other in the playoff for the first time, and it's going to be a cold game in South Bend. If Indiana can stop Notre Dame's rushing attack, they have a chance, but honestly, I'm going to say that Notre Dame probably wins this game. The next day, we have a couple more college football playoff matchups, as number 11 SMU will take on number 6 Penn State. Both of these teams went 11-2 and lost in their conference championship game, and while a lot of people are clowning on SMU, I'm actually going to predict them to pull off the upset, as James Franklin has not proven to me that he can win a big-time game. So I'm going to go ahead and say that SMU wins in a thriller, and this game will be a lot of fun to watch as well. After that, we have to talk about number 12 Clemson going on the road against number 5 Texas, and what's also another big-time battle between two orange schools. Clemson got hot at the end of the year and won the ACC championship, and Texas took advantage of a mediocre schedule and did what they needed to do to get that 5 seed. Cade Klubnik versus Quinn Ewers will be a lot of fun to watch, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Texas to win that one. The final game that day will be number 9 Tennessee versus number 8 Ohio State, as Josh Heupel gets his Vols to the college football playoff for the first time, and his 2 stars in Dylan Sampson and Nico Yamaliava will face off against a loaded Ohio State team with an elite defense and star talent littered all over the roster. If Ryan Day somehow manages to mess this up, he should be run out of town, and I think Ohio State wins, but it will be in a thriller. Okay, so on Monday, December 23rd, we have the Myrtle Beach Bowl, as that'll be 6-6 Coastal Carolina versus 6-6 UTSA. We'll have Josh McCown's son, Owen McCown, playing for UTSA, and then a new quarterback for Coastal, as their guy ended up entering the portal. I think UTSA is the better team in this one, and I'm going to go ahead and pick the Roadrunners to win this game down in South Carolina. After that, we've talked about Northern Illinois versus Fresno State. At one point, NIU looked like one of the best group of 5 schools in the country as they went on the road to South Bend and beat Notre Dame. Fresno State, on the other hand, limped to a 6-6 record, and despite them falling off, I'm going to say that NIU wins this game, and they will bring home the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. On Tuesday, December 24th, we'll have the Hawaii Bowl as South Florida will play against San Jose State. San Jose State was one of those surprises in the Mountain West this year, and South Florida had a little bit of a down year after a promising first season under Alex Golesh. I think this game will be close, but I'm going to go ahead and pick San Jose State, and this is definitely somewhat of an intriguing matchup for me. Oh, how things ended for Pittsburgh. Pitt started out 7-0 and then lost 5 straight games. It was rough sledding for Pittsburgh at the end of the year, and they'll face off against another team that also had a disappointing year. Toledo was supposed to win the MAC, but they ended up going 7-5, and despite that early season win against Mississippi State, Toledo just couldn't really get things going. Still though, Pitt is probably the more talented team in this one, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the Panthers to beat the Rockets. Later on that day, we get another game as Rutgers, who's 7-5, will play against 8-4 Kansas State. Some people were giving Rutgers college football playoff hype this season, and I don't really know why, and Kansas State was honestly pretty disappointing. Avery Johnson was good, but not as good as many people wanted him to be, and they were mostly held up by their running back DJ Giddens. I still don't really trust Rutgers at this point, and I think K-State's the better team, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the Wildcats to win the Rate Bowl. After that, we've talked about the 68 Ventures Bowl, as 7-5 Arkansas State will play against 7-5 Bowling Green. For some reason, I really like this Bowling Green team, as you have guys like Connor Bazelak, and then superstar tight end Harold Fannin Jr., so I'm rooting all the way for Bowling Green, and I think they're definitely going to beat Arkansas State in this one. Oklahoma got put into a weird bowl game matchup as the 6-6 Sooners will play against the 8-3 Navy Midshipmen in the Armed Forces Bowl. A couple weeks ago, this would have been crazy as Navy was undefeated and had a dark horse chance at the college football playoff, but instead they fell off towards the end of the year, and they could even be 8-4 if they lose to Army this upcoming weekend. Oklahoma is just lucky to make a bowl game in year 3 under Brett Venables. And honestly, this game could be pretty intriguing as Jackson Arnold's in the portal, and I have no idea who's going to be playing for Oklahoma, but I'm still going to say the Sooners end up lining up and winning this one. After that, we get to talk about Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. These are two of the toughest teams in college football, as Georgia Tech was seemingly really difficult to beat each and every week, and Vanderbilt was the same way. Vandy was 6-6, and the Yellow Jackets were 7-5, and this is definitely a battle of toughness going on in Birmingham. Ultimately, I'm going to pick the Yellow Jackets to win the Birmingham Bowl, but this game should be fun. We get an old Southern matchup as Texas Tech, who's 8-4, will play against 6-6 Arkansas, and Arkansas had a good year, but they just couldn't really finish things strong. The Razorbacks have a couple of talented players, including quarterback Taylon Green, but ultimately, I think Baron Morton in that offense is going to go ahead and beat Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl, and Texas Tech wins. Coming up later that night, number 21 Syracuse will play against Washington State. The Orange went 9-3 in year 1 under Fran Brown, and Washington State went 8-4 in their first season outside of the Power 4. Washington State fell off towards the end of the year, whereas Syracuse got hot, and watching John Mateer versus Kyle McCord could be a treat if both of them play, but ultimately I'm going to pick Syracuse to go ahead and win the Holiday Bowl. The final game of that day will be Texas A&M versus USC. This is a battle of big-time brands, as the Aggies went 8-4 in year 1 under Mike Elko, and USC went 6-6 in a disappointing season for Lincoln Riley. These two teams will face off in the Las Vegas Bowl, and we should see Jaden Mayava versus Marcel Reed. At the beginning of the season, nobody would have expected that, but I'm going to say that Texas A&M goes ahead and wins this game. After that, we get UConn versus North Carolina. The Huskies enjoyed a resurgence as they went 8-4 this year, and North Carolina stumbled to a 6-6 record. North Carolina is led by their superstar running back Omar Hampton, and I don't really know what UConn has, but I'm going to go ahead and say they win this game and pull off one of the upsets of this bowl season. I know technically speaking it's not an upset, but I think a win here would be perfect for the UConn program moving forward. Also that day, we have Boston College versus Nebraska, as they'll be playing in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. The Huskers got to a bowl game after flirting with it for about 8 years, and Boston College, after a hot start, kind of fell off at 7-5. Kai Robichaux should lead the way for Boston College, but I think Nebraska's going to win this, and they're going to have their first winning season in quite some time. Later on that day, we'll have Louisiana versus TCU in the New Mexico Bowl. The Horned Frogs went 8-4, led by their star quarterback Josh Hoover, and Louisiana had a really fun year and ended up going 10-3. The Cajuns did fall off in the last couple of weeks, and this is a very interesting matchup. I think it'll be close, but I think TCU will ultimately win this one in a thriller. This year in the Pop-Tarts Bowl of two teams that had playoff aspirations that fell apart. At number 18, Iowa State went 10-3, but lost their opportunity to go to the playoff after losing to Arizona State. Miami ended up blowing it to Syracuse and Georgia Tech, so they finished at 10-2 and ranked number 13. If Cam Ward plays, I think Miami wins this game, and if he doesn't, I think Iowa State does. It's as simple as that. After that, we have the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, as 8-5 Miami of Ohio will play against Colorado State, who went 8-4. Brett Gabbert will be the best quarterback on the field that night, and this game is honestly a coin flip, but I'm going to say Colorado State wins this one. From there, we get another interesting game as East Carolina plays against NC State. NC State's a lot like North Carolina in the sense that they were pretty boring and didn't do much this year, and East Carolina was kind of the same way. The Military Bowl isn't exactly going to be the biggest bowl game on the schedule, but I think it'll be good for NC State to get this win, and they'll end up going 7-6. After that, we have BYU versus Coach Prime, as while they didn't play this year, this will be a Big 12 on Big 12 matchup. The Cougars had playoff aspirations but fell apart in the last month, and Colorado didn't have a couple things go their way, so they went 9-3 and BYU went 10-2. And this game I think is going to be wild, but I think BYU wins because I think a lot of Colorado players will opt out. Final game of that day will be Marshall versus Army, as Marshall went 10-3 and Army went 11-1. If Army didn't get skull crushed by Notre Dame and somehow beat them, they'd be in the playoff right now, but that's not how things turned out. We'll get another opportunity to watch Bryson Daly, who'll be the best player on the field, and because of that, I think they're going to go ahead and beat Marshall in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. On Monday, December 30th, we have Iowa, who's 8-4, playing against 9-3 Mizzou. I don't think Mizzou will have that many opt-outs, and Iowa should be near full strength as well, so this game could be pretty decent. Mizzou lost to the 3 best teams on their schedule, but found a way to win a lot of close games. If they can just stop Caleb Johnson, I think Mizzou has a pretty easy route to winning this game, but as we know, Iowa makes things tough. Still though, I think Mizzou ends up winning, and they take home the Music City Bowl. Now we get to our New Year's Eve games, as we have number 11 Alabama versus 7-5 Michigan. It's kind of a crime that these two are playing, but it's definitely for brand's sake. We get a rematch of last year's college football playoff, as the 9-3 Tide, led by Jalen Milroe, will play against Michigan. With how mad Alabama is, I think they're going to stomp on Michigan in this game, but who really knows at this point? But ultimately, I picked the Tide to win the Relic Quest Bowl. That same day, we'll have 8-4 Louisville versus 6-6 Washington in the Tony the Tigers Sun Bowl. Isaac Brown and Tyler Shuck will lead the way for the 8-4 Cardinals, and Washington just barely limped to a bowl game, so I think Louisville wins this game pretty easily, and moves things in the right direction for Jeff Brom. That same day, we have number 15 South Carolina playing against number 20 Illinois in the Citrus Bowl. The Illini had a great season under Brett Bielema, and Shane Beamer had a great season at South Carolina. This game, in my opinion, is somewhat of a coin flip, but ultimately, because of Lenora Sellers and how well South Carolina football has been playing, I'm going to say the Gamecocks take home the Citrus Bowl. So the final game I'm going to talk about is the Texas Bowl, as 8-4 Baylor will play against 8-4 LSU. This feels like one of those games you'd play in NCAA 14 in the non-con, but after a tough start, Baylor ended up going 8-4, and LSU on the other hand, after a hot start, fell off. This is a battle of two teams headed in opposite directions, and I'm not quite sure of the opt-out situations, but either way, I'm going to pick Baylor to win this game, as I think they are just the better team. So yeah, today I previewed all the 2024 bowl games, and let me know what you think. Did your team make a bowl? How do you think your team's going to do in that bowl, and what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.